Hi there. Welcome to another edition of Diversity of Urban Art. My name is Lynn Whipple. I'm a visual artist from Winter Park, Florida. We're here at my studio, McCrae Art Studios, and I'd like to share with you a few of the different types of work that I like to do. For many years, I was known as a collage artist, and for me, that started by taking old photographs, which I always thought were fascinating because they have stories to them, and I would make up stories about them. And one day we had house paint all over our house. We were painting our house, trying to pick a color, and I grabbed a bucket of house paint, an old photograph on my refrigerator, and I started to paint the photographs. So this is sort of what happened. This is kind of the beginning of it. So I would take just a photograph like this and then rearrange the shapes by editing with the paint. So all this white paint turned her from sort of a normal sort of Victorian lady and to someone with a hoop skirt with wings. I gave her antennas, and I happen to call her Grace, which you see down here. But that was so funny to me and fun that I continued to do it. So I ended up calling this series the Ninny series. And what that means, when I was a kid growing up in the South, my sisters and I, when we were being silly, we would call each other Silly Ninny. So these are sort of silly, but they progressed and they ended up just growing, and then I would add color and more paper collage and that sort of thing. So I'm going to show you just a few examples of that now. So when I first started, real simple, right? Real simple palette, just the cream color, a little bit of pencil drawing, that's it. And then slowly it began to build. So as you can see with this one, it's a series of pieces, and it was about a garden. So you're getting sort of the garden gate, and I made all the sort of the pillars of the garden or the fence posts of the garden different people. So these are all old photographs glued down and then sort of cut out with paint. So that was kind of a fun thing. And on the inside, I did the same thing, a little bit larger shapes, and I took all the photographs and turned them into flowers. So it was just kind of a fun thing. This was for a book called In This Garden that I was asked to participate in. As I played and played with this idea, I like to start work very sort of loose. So I would just lay down paper, colored paper randomly. I didn't have a big idea what they were going to turn out. I would just throw down the paper, glue it down, throw down some more, glue it down, and I'd build this really kind of interesting surface with no real plan. But what I learned was all these little layers would come out later and help my design. So then once I had a lot of stuff, I usually would throw in the photographs, because then it gives it an anchor and something to tell a story about, something, you know, kind of funny for me. So then I would start cutting out their shapes and designing what they looked like. And of course, they're not realistic. They're sort of, these two look like twins because they're in the same body, but they have separate feet. And then I would just play. So this blue hat, for instance, was just a total random accident. I happen to like index cards, and that is a blue index card. But once you lay it down and then you start to play, that design pops up. So for me, that was just sort of thrilling and fun and funny. So I continued to do this series for probably about 20 years, the Ninny series, and they grew. They grew, some of them became 8 foot long, 4 by 8 foot long, with giant photographs, pieces of quilt, a lot of found objects. I mean, they just expanded and expanded and expanded. So here's a few more just examples of that. This one was, it's kind of wavy. It's called Bug Girl. Again, same idea, really simple old photograph, some layering, a little bit of paint on top, and then it starts to tell a story. It's just simple and fun. There's not a big, you know, giant change the world meaning to these, but there is good design, and it's a lot of fun to make them. There's a couple more examples. This one is called Move Your Hands, which of course that was an outline of my hand. And I am a big proponent of, when I think about creativity or share creativity or encourage creativity, I think this is a major point. So many people tend to stop themselves from having fun being creative. So if you just get in there and move your hands, I believe this is the key to everything. So you don't have to worry about what it's going to look like in the beginning. Just get in there and move your hands, and it will tell you. Most of my pieces progress. I don't know what it's going to look like, and then they sort of come about, and then you respond to that layer and that layer. So it's a constant play. I'm in and out. Oh, that's funny. Let's put a bird on his head. Yeah, this is Abe Lincoln, actually. But this is completely random, and I would not say this is finished by any means. It's just where it sits at the moment. For me, it would probably have to make me laugh and then I would think it was finished. Or I might, write a name up here or title it somehow. So that's, and this was actually just pieces of paper that I ran through the sewing machine. I don't know if you can see that, but so that's kind of a fun thing to do. I think that's just a good example. Another little thing to think about, these are old photographs that we call nature ninnies, and we took them out. My husband and I went on a trip to Portland, and this is a beautiful garden up there. And we just found things on the ground. We took old photographs, and we just photographed them with different pieces and parts from nature on them. Completely random, again, something that made us laugh and have fun and be in nature. And then I brought the photographs back, and then I would just add a little more to them. A little fixin', I like to call it little fixins. Here's one more of those. Again, same thing. These are just random pieces and parts that were laying on the ground in this gorgeous garden, the Botanical Gardens in Portland. And what a fun day that was. So they're funny and they're fun and they're sort of unexpected. Like, why would you even draw, these little faces on these, I don't know, but it makes me laugh. So there's that. What a lot of people might find interesting is I tend to always want to be learning, and I encourage that for everybody else. So this is sort of an example of something I've been working on lately, which is much more realistic and does have sort of a planned outcome. This is a plein air painting of downtown Orlando. It's the pagoda near our big Eola Park, a beautiful park. And for me to go from this sort of play to this sort of realism was really a stretch. So I had to train myself how to do that, and I still am. I'm still learning how to master the tools of painting. So for me, this is kind of an exciting thing because it's tricky to me, to my brain. But anyway, that just shows you sort of a range of what's possible. There's no limits to what you can make. You don't have to do the same thing over and over and over. I think you should play and have a great time. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Diversity of Urban Art.